Biomed Nexus Daily Updates, your essential biotech, medtech, and pharma recap. No noise, just what matters. TLDR, the FDA extended Capricor's Deramiocel PDUFA target action date to November 22, 2026, after classifying a BLA amendment containing 24-month HOPE-3 open-label extension data as a major amendment. Capricor asked the agency to review a refined proposed indication focused on upper limb function. Genentech licensed HM17321, Hanmi's non-incretin UCN2 analog, designed to preserve lean mass during weight loss for $190 million upfront and up to $3 billion total worldwide outside South Korea. The asset is in Phase 1. The FDA placed REGENXBIO's Hunter syndrome gene therapy, RGX-121, on clinical hold after asymptomatic spine MRI findings in 5 trial participants dosed 3 to 6 years earlier. The company no longer expects a near-term BLA resubmission. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. filed a request for information questioning the CDC's vaccine classification categories per biospace 2 weeks after the executive order directing a breakup of the MMR vaccine. The FDA added Limbic and Sondermind to its Tempo digital health pilot per MedTech Dive, bringing the program to 4 participants and into behavioral health for the first time. Amylyx has still not announced the closing of its $500, $2 million offering, which was expected on or about August 21st. Executive Takeaway Monday, we wrote that Capricor's silence had 2 readings, administrative or something worse, that neither was disprovable from outside, and that an 8K's absence by Wednesday would itself be a data point. The answer arrived Monday morning, and the administrative reading won. Both halves of that call are now on the record within 1 trading day of making it. But the disclosure contains something the relief rally is skating past: the word refined. Capricor did not just get a new date, it is now asking the agency to judge Deramiocel as an upper limb drug anchored to the endpoint that actually hit, instead of the cardiomyopathy drug its advisory committee voted against. That is the label narrowing we have said was likely since August 17th, executed by the sponsor itself before the agency had to impose it. A smaller ask raises the odds of a yes and shrinks what a yes is worth, at a company an activist just accused of betting everything on one outcome. And for the week's count, the empty date did not produce a decision, it produced another date. Read full analysis, rare disease. Capricor broke its silence with a new date and a smaller ask. Kappa, the FDA extended Deramiocel's target action date to November 22, 2026, Capricor said Monday, after the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research classified the company's BLA amendment containing 24 months of open-label extension data from HOPE-3 plus additional robustness analyses as a major amendment. The same release says Capricor asked the agency to review data supporting a refined proposed indication focused on upper limb function, the endpoint HOPE-3 met at p equal to 0.029 rather than the cardiomyopathy claim its advisory committee voted 3-9 against in July. Chief Executive Linda Marban called the dataset one of the most extensive evaluating upper limb outcomes in Duchenne. Kappa closed at 680, up 8.1% per market data. Monday's Pro Brief argued that a sponsor staying silent leaves a vacuum the market fills with the worst case. Capricor filled the vacuum 2 days after the date passed, and the relief in the stock tells you which case it had been pricing. Obesity Roche just paid $190 million to find out whether the next obesity war is fought over muscle. REGENXBIO Genentech licensed HM17321, Hanmi Pharmaceuticals' UCN2 analog, for $190 million upfront and up to $3 billion total, plus tiered royalties worldwide outside South Korea. The molecule is a non-incretin designed to preserve lean body mass while driving fat loss. It cleared its FDA IND in November 2025 and is in Phase 1, which Hanmi will finish before Genentech takes development from Phase 2. Hanmi's development chief framed the deal as obesity treatment moving beyond weight reduction toward body composition. One sourcing note, Fierce reported the total as $5 billion, while the company's own release says up to $3 billion, so $3 billion is the figure of record. This is Roche's second obesity-relevant commitment inside a week, following the roughly $750 million Hillsborough assembly plant, and it lands squarely on our standing call that the real threat to the incretin duopoly is next-generation mechanisms, not another Me-Too agonist. Gene therapy 5 benign-looking MRIs just cost REGENXBIO a quarter of its market value. RGNX, the FDA placed RGX-121, REGENXBIO's gene therapy for Hunter syndrome, on clinical hold after asymptomatic spine MRI findings in 5 campsite participants dosed 3 to 6 years earlier, small nodules or small cystic masses that investigators deem non-serious and radiologists consider likely benign. All 5 patients remain clinically well with stable to improved neurocognitive and neurobehavioral assessments. No brain findings were identified, and the company is still waiting on the agency's formal hold letter. The damage is to the timeline. REGENXBIO no longer expects to resubmit the BLA in the near term, per its release, upending a refiling of an application the agency had already declined once, per Biospace. RGNX closed down 24.9% per market data. The pro-brief takes up what this adds to the agency's risk map because it is neither a biology rejection nor a factory rejection, and that is exactly the point. Policy Kennedy opened a paper trail on how vaccines get recommended. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. filed a request for information on the Federal Register, questioning whether the CDC's 3 vaccine recommendation categories imply that consent and meaningful clinical discussion belong only to the shared clinical decision-making tier per Biospace. The RFI also seeks comment on evidence standards for immunization guidelines and cites reduced public trust after pandemic-era mandates. It follows the August 10 executive order directing the Health Department to split the MMR vaccine into 3 separate shots, an order Biospace reports manufacturers, including Merck, Pfizer, GSK, and Sanofi, say would take years to implement, with some experts estimating a decade. An RFI changes nothing by itself. It is a solicitation of comment. What it does is move the administration's questions about the recommendation architecture into a formal docket, where the responses become part of the record for whatever comes next. Digital health. The FDA's pre-market exemption pilot just crossed into mental health. The agency added Limbic and Sondermind to Tempo, its joint pilot with CMS, bringing the program to 4 participants alongside Dexcom and Cadence, per MedTech Dive. Limbix Unpacked delivers cognitive behavioral therapy for anxiety and depression through telephone calls with an AI voice agent under clinician oversight. Sondermind's smartphone app works as an adjunct to therapy or medication and is contraindicated in suicidality, mania, psychosis, and PTSD. Tempo participants gather real-world data under an exemption from pre-market authorization while accessing a Medicare payment model that rewards outcomes. Behavioral health is a pointed choice for that structure. These are exactly the products the agency's open comment period on generative AI regulation is circling, now reaching Medicare patients through a pathway that skips the pre-market gate. The pilot can take up to 10 manufacturers, and the next editions will say which categories the agency most wants tested. Quick hits. Amylyx has still not announced the closing of its $500 $2 million offering, which was expected on or about August 21st, nor any exercise of the underwriter's option. The most recent item on its release index remains the August 19th pricing as of Monday night. AMLX, still no Senate help. Hearing date for FDA Commissioner nominee Heidi Overton 6 days after the nomination, the committee's hearings page showed nothing scheduled as of Monday night. Minimed began shipping its Flex insulin pump with Abbott's Instinct sensor, a 15-day wear sensor paired with the same SmartGuard algorithm as the 780G per the company's August 17 release. MMED TDABT no FDA response yet to the Mulliner and Klein letter on Chinese trial data, and no new disclosure from Boehringer on the BI 3031185 safety event as of Monday night. In today's full analysis, be sure to read the full article for all the details, including the full Duramiocel timeline from the March PDUFA notice through Monday's extension with the indication pivot explained, the Hanmi deal terms table, and where a UCN2 analog fits against the incretin incumbents, every disclosed fact on the RGX 121 hold, including what the 5 MRI findings are and are not, the Tempo participant table, now 4 companies deep, and what the behavioral health additions change. Read the full breakdown, Biomed, Nexus, ProIn, today's Pro Brief. The one word in Capricor's release that matters more than the new date, what the indication surgery buys and what it costs, and how the option just changed for holders. What $90 million up front prices the muscle thesis at, why Roche is building its obesity position sideways, and who should be uncomfortable about it. The third kind of FDA risk, what a hold over 5 benign-appearing images means for every CNS-delivered gene therapy, including the one with a September 19th date, plus the running empty date count ahead of Friday's ratio upgrade to unlock institutional analysis, or one empty date resolved into another date, which is not the same thing as a decision. Our Friday ratio counts decisions, and so far, the week score is 0. What are you watching? Reply to this email. Read, full article sponsorship slots for 2026 are limited. See packages and pricing. New Biomed Nexus signals. Weekly sales intelligence for life sciences, BD teams. Learn more.